Arsenal lost 2-0 at home to West Ham, and now we're here outside Craven Cottage, hoping that some of those errors from 5 of our last 6 games don't rear their head again. What am I talking about? I'm talking our ability to actually create openings, dominate games. I'd say have 6/7 out of 10 chances and not do enough with them. I'm not saying that Arsenal are missing a load of open goals. I mean, sure, Gabriel Jesus headed it over the bar when he should have done a lot better, perhaps buried that opportunity. But I'm talking about Arsenal's inefficiency in front of goal. And then when it is getting to points in the game where you've got to 60, 65 minutes and you're realising, guys, we've got 30 minutes to try and do something a little bit different here. Can Arsenal do that something different? Now, it's not just your eyes telling you something's wrong. Apart from Luton, 5 of our last 6 games have been really disappointing. I was at the Wolves game, 2-0 up inside the first 15 minutes, cruising, it ends 2-1. It was a 6-0 performance. Brighton ended 2-0. We needed a late goal from Havertz to really seal the points. They nearly equalised at 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go. It was a 6-0 performance. We've done a lot of this. There are openings against Liverpool, but you forgive it because it's Anfield. What I want to talk about in this video is what Arsenal could be doing differently tactically, purely from a positional setup sense that might start to get a little bit out of our players in a different way, that give the opposition something different to look at. And now the first thing I want to do is actually give you some stats that support what the eye tests are telling you. Have a little look at this. 3 goals in 81 shots in our last 4 games. 81 shots. Only 3 of them have found the back of the net. That's about 20 shots per game. Like, typically, if Arsenal have 15 shots in across 90 minutes, I'm saying, yeah, that's all right. 20 shots on average in the last 4 games. Martinelli has 2 Premier League goals, Jesus has 3. That is 2 of our star front 3 that was so good last season. In the league this season, they've got 5 between them. 11 set-piece goals, the joint most in the Premier League, which is decent, but with that, only 18 open play Premier League goals this season, the 12th most in the Premier League. 12th. Arsenal, with the talent we have, the 12th most goals from open play in the Premier League this season. That's not good enough. Our highest goal scorer is still Eddie Nketiah on 5 goals. The guy hasn't been in the starting 11 for ages. There are lots of stats that are supporting what we're saying about Arsenal lacking something in terms of our front 3 getting near to goal, in terms of us looking post and actually punishing teams for the amount of the ball we have. If you, and it's a silly sentence to say, but if you remove the actual final bit, which is putting the ball in the back of the net, you're saying Arsenal played well against West Ham. You're saying Arsenal were brilliant against Brighton. You're saying Arsenal was scintillating against Wolves. But the reason those words, scintillating, brilliant, cutting, cold, all these words that describe a really proper attacking force of side, the reason those words aren't used is because we're not killing sides. So, what can Arsenal do better? Well, let's talk about what Arsenal tried to do differently. And that's where we go to the tactical plan. And what I've got is Arsenal's 3-3-4 shape here against West Ham as we go 2-0 down and Arteta decides to do something a little bit different. Now, in my opinion, he left the subs too late. Look, West Ham's second goal comes in the 55th minute. Maybe any minute before that would have been a bit too early, but certainly 63rd, 64th minute when the subs were made, that was a little bit too late. He should have done it on the goal immediately. But what he does, he gets Zinchenko off, he takes Martinelli off, who was struggling as well. He is in poor form, I can't deny that. Zinchenko's not playing great. And he goes for a midfield 3 of Rice in there with Trossard, Ødegaard, and then Nelson and Saka holding the width. Did it do any good? I don't know if it did a lot of good, but look, ultimately we still had chances. I don't think it really changed the course of the game massively compared to what we were doing earlier in the game. Like, ultimately, the chances we were creating, I think we probably would have created them had we not made those changes. Nelson and Nketiah didn't make a big impact, but I'm not going to blame them massively or be too harsh on them about it. So, what are the certain things we can see? Well, if I just take you, let's open this. Got Arsenal's system here. Now, we know we play a 4-3-3, and we know that if we move the players up the pitch as we always do, it's going to look a little something like this. Now, I know Kai Havertz is in that space. He is, okay, he didn't play against West Ham. He has been a regular in this team, and we've got to look at what we can do differently with him there as well. Now, Arsenal, from this shape, have done things a little bit differently at times. For example, we've had Zinchenko perhaps a little bit wider at times. So, in fact, let me just do this. There we go. Cool. We've had Zinchenko wider at times. We've had Rice there with Ødegaard dropping deep so that Havertz can be a little bit closer to Jesus. We have done things slightly different at times, but the principles are the same. That Martinelli and Saka are out here, and that generally you're going to have Zinchenko tucked in a little bit there. Havertz is going to occupy that sort of space that Xhaka was in, and the fullbacks are going to be nearer to Martinelli and Saka. And then central midfielders might drop into that space to cover as well. My big question is, can we start to tweak the system fairly drastically? And by fairly drastically, I mean, can we actually start to get Zinchenko up on the overlap, Saliba and Gabriel split, and White gets up on the overlap, so that you've got your central midfield, but you've got Martinelli and Saka closer to Jesus. This is not the first time we have talked about it on this channel over the last few years. Now, what I want to say is, I'm not expecting Arteta to rock up here against Craven Cottage and go, yep, totally new system, we're going to do the Jurgen Klopp Liverpool style, wing backs getting up the pitch, wingers closer to their strikers, so you have a really narrow front three. I'm not expecting that, because we've come a long way with our principles of play. But I'm asking whether in the last 20-25 minutes of games, Arsenal can do something differently, whether Arsenal can get the likes of Martinelli and Saka closer to Jesus, because when Jesus is pinning down those defenders, can he roll it into a Saka? Can he roll it? I think Saka dived, to be fair, but we nearly won a penalty and nearly made something happen by having Saka darting into the space that Jesus was opening up by getting his back to goal. It also means that when Jesus is dropping into those spaces, Martinelli and Saka are actually there to occupy the centre-backs. Too often it feels to me that the centre-backs don't have much to do, because Jesus wants to drop into midfield to build up. The wingers are really high and wide. Everyone else, Trossard and Ødegaard, feel they've got responsibility in build-up. And actually the centre-backs are having a really easy time with it. And I feel like we had a lot of that against West Ham. Now, a couple other things I want to try is getting Jesus into the box a little bit more. Asking the centre-backs to drop in a little bit and Jesus to actually get on the end of things. Now, he got on the end of a few headers and made a complete meal of it. But can we go long at times? Can he run the channels, out wide? Someone beeping over there. Might be an Arsenal fan. Maybe they're agreeing with my points. Can we run the channels a little bit more? Can we get our strikers, Jesus got some pace, running beyond that front line, that back line, leading the front line, and actually just going, I think I saw a stat, Ryan didn't attempt one long ball across the whole 90. I was at the game, I noticed it. He never once went long, just to try and get us up the pitch and try and disrupt the shape of the West Ham back four. We need to be throwing different questions. Then there's a couple extra things I think we can do here. Firstly, if I just move everyone back a little bit, in build-up, I think Ødegaard, who's got a final third pass in him, listen, I think he's an 8, not a 10, but can we get him a little bit more central? So even if Saka and Martinelli are holding width, can we get Ødegaard a little bit closer to Jesus, playing in those pockets? It just felt like every time he was getting the ball, it just felt, if we move everyone back into their shape a little bit, it just felt like Ødegaard was always coming to this area to receive the ball, and he's in and around Saka's space. And so when they get doubled up on in that area, they have to be incredibly inventive, incredibly creative to try and work their way through the pitch. It's not easy when you've got 3 players there, the touchline's behind you, you're facing in front, and West Ham are in a good shape. It's very difficult to try and conjure a little bit of magic in some 1-2s, and Ødegaard made a good fist of it. He did. Saka had a go. But I'm just asking whether we can get Ødegaard a little bit central, and maybe White enters that space, maybe White overlaps and Saka's a little bit more central as well. Can we just work those different areas out wide differently and get Ødegaard closer to Jesus? Ødegaard doesn't have to be in the first phase of build-up all the time. Maybe he can get into those pockets so he can get the ball and then release that ball so someone is in on goal. He nearly played in Saka, once or twice in that game, and he tried to get into central areas. I just want to see more of it, because as we got later in the game, it felt like he was relying more and more on finding the space and maybe whipping balls to the back post. And it just felt, I was watching the game going, here we go. The repeat patterns, repeat patterns, repeat patterns. I want to see if Arsenal can throw something else here. Now, the final thing I want to show, if I just get rid of all this for a second, bear with me one sec. Right, we've got Arsenal in their kind of 4-3-3, as we mentioned before, and we know that it involves getting up the pitch like this. Now, what I want to do firstly, before I take everyone out, I want to take Kai Havertz off the pitch. I want to bring on Jorginho. Where is he? Now, some people might think that bringing in Jorginho and moving Rice to the 8 is seen as a defensive move because you've got 2 6s. It can be, but the way you use players in certain positions is more an indicator of actually how negative you are being with certain tactical tweaks. Let me show you what I mean. Now, yes, Rice can get forward and play as the Xhaka, and yes, Zinchenko can invert with Jorginho, and you can get your back 3. Cool, we're all used to all this. My question is, okay, Rice can crash the back post. You know, when that ball is whipped in by Bukayo Saka, he works space really well, finds that ball to the back post for Rice, you know, or whoever, Havertz it's been, whoever it might be. Yeah, that's the tactic I'd like to see, and Rice could probably do quite well at that. Actually, if you look at some of his goals last season for West Ham, he did that, attacking the back post. So Rice can offer that, no question. But what I really want to see is actually whether in possession we can do something a little bit different. Zinchenko inverts. He's not playing as well this season as last season. He'd probably be the first to tell you that. He's been caught out defensively. I don't think he looked good at all on the Liverpool goal. Didn't look good at all on the West Ham goal. Gives the ball away for Wolves, who get one back. Zinchenko isn't doing great defensively, and ultimately, when we don't have the ball and we drop back into shape, he's going to have to get back to left back. But I don't feel like he's doing a particularly bad job when we're actually dropping into a shape. It's more when players have been pulled out of position. My big question is, though, the reason we've accepted Zinchenko's frailties on the ball, not on the ball, his lapses defensively, the reason we've accepted it is because he offers so much going forward. Now, something Arteta tried in the Sevilla game away in the Champions League was actually to get Tomiyasu forward a little bit so that Rice and Jorginho could play as a double pivot. Can we see a little bit more of this and actually get Zinchenko into areas where he can use his ability on the ball to feed the front three, not trying to find eights in the pockets, but actually being that almost creative number 10 on the left in the way Ødegaard is. I know it sounds crazy for a left back, but we've done it with Tomiyasu. Ange Postecoglou, I know we're talking about Tottenham, we don't like to use them as examples. They just lost 4-2 to Brighton, they've had some defeats this season. But look at the areas that Udogie and Porro get into when they get up the pitch. Can we get Zinchenko here? Rice sitting, the ball moves out to Rice, who's a decent ball progressor. Yes, not Thomas Partey, some are saying. I think he's better on the ball than people give him credit for. But can Zinni find these spaces? So when Zinni gets the ball, they engage. Martinez hugging the touchline. He's the one feeding it out to Martinelli. He's got the ability on the ball to deliver that pass. I just wonder whether instead of Zinchenko always being a part of the first phase of build-up, which I think teams are clocking onto, I think teams are figuring out what Zinchenko's doing in that area. Can we get him into more of that 10 space? It's not a crazy thing to suggest. We've done it before and other clubs in the Premier League are doing it as well. Those are just a few solutions I think Arsenal can throw at them. So to sum up, get Ødegaard a little bit more central. Certainly, if you're not going to do that, get Saka and Martinelli nearer to Jesus so he can make those darting runs and play off Jesus, who rolls defenders, plays good passes in and occupies space. Get Jesus in the penalty area, you know, when we have those sort of more central areas occupied as well. It's all about occupying those central areas, but whoever does it, the others need to make runs off them. And can we get Zinchenko into areas where his left foot and his really good pass, still think he's a really good passer of the ball. Can you get him to areas where he can actually be a creative force for us? And you know what? Yeah, maybe if we lose the ball in transition, Rice covers at centre-back, Gabriel goes out to left-back, and you actually look at a solid back four to deal with the job there. Those are my questions to you. I feel like we've got some solutions there. Like I just want to stress this. This isn't start the game with this whole new set of tactical plans. What Arsenal have been doing with their general principles of play have got them a long way. And actually on another day we might be 2-0 up at half-time against West Ham, playing the kind of football we did. But when you get to that 65th minute, you can't just keep thinking, yeah, our wide wingers who have loads to do and, you know, our 10s getting into wide pockets as well. It's not always going to work. Over a game, over 60 minutes, the team that we're playing against, they get used to it, they drop into a shape, they get comfortable, our players get frustrated, and you've got to have a plan B. That doesn't mean bringing on a 6'4" striker necessarily. Yes, we'd like that, but the question is, can a plan B be a different way of asking questions of the opposition? And I don't think we've shown enough of that in the last few games. Even the ones where we've been winning, you've thought, yeah, but is there a way we can kill this off? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and let's hope that A, we get the job done here, but if we do find ourselves struggling as we enter that final half hour of the game, can we throw something different at the opposition? That's my question. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and check out all the contents coming out around the Fulham game. Hopefully we end the year on a high and go into the new year top of the league, asking a question of Liverpool and Newcastle. Catch you in a bit. Cool. All right, let's go straight into it now. Arsenal lost 2-0 at home to West Ham, and we know that the frustrations might have come from the mistakes coming from goals. I'm gonna start again because I kept hiccuping throughout that. You know when like you've got like, all right, we'll go again. I was happy with the start, but you know when you're like, you can't really talk because you've got like gas in your windpipe. All right, should we go again, yeah? And we're in.